Okay, so we may as well get this thing going. A couple minutes past 5:15. Looks like we got about 57 folks, and we got people coming in, so that's good. My numbers, my numbers indicate I got 151 or 150 exploratory track students. So there's a couple of us that aren't here. So I want to welcome you guys to our very first group advising session. None of you guys have probably met me in person. Some of you might know that I got a really bad sense of humor. So I love to smile and joke, but I am kind of serious. But so in that spirit, I'm going to start this silly thing with a joke. So I won't be able to see if you guys really know the answer or not, but why should you never play poker in a zoo? And the reason is there's a lot of cheetahs there. You guys like that? No? Oh, well. So you kind of lose something in the translation when you don't have people laughing in the background. They're saying, oh, Greg, go away. Oh, well. All right. So a couple ground rules. I've got a slide deck we're going to go through. This is the first time I've ever done a Zoom info session. So I think the ground rules are going to be keep yourself muted for now. At the end of each slide, I will try to remember to move my screen back to this, unshare it, and see if there are any questions. Because when I'm in this mode, I can see if you've got a question. So you just have to put your hand up on Zoom. I think you can do that on the lower part of the screen. And if there are none, then I'll just kind of keep moving. At the very end, I will also have a question answer phase to answer any kind of questions, and hopefully we can get through all of them at that point in time. This should last anywhere between an hour and 2 hours, and habitually it's lasted about that long. Some of them are a little shorter, some are a little longer, kind of depending on the questions. But we're kind of doing this thing for the first time on Zoom. Okay, so let me share my screen. Oh, and by the way, not that it really matters to you, but I am getting a little bit of technical help from one of our IT people in our college, Alex, who's back there somewhere. He's got himself muted. You won't really need to know that, but I just wanted to share that with you if I have to ask for help and Alex pops up and starts talking. So, all right, so let's get going here. I'm going to share my screen. And let's see if I can do it right. Good. Okay, I think I got it right. All right, so welcome to the UMass. You guys are the class of 2024. And more specifically, welcome to the College of Information and Computer Sciences. You all are exploratory track students, which means you're not in a major yet. And it is my job to kind of help you navigate that whole thing and get to a major. As a result, we are going to have a relationship, and I try to meet 3 times each semester. This is one of them. We will have another type of group session around October timeframe, the pre-registration period, when we start registering for the spring semester. And then we're going to have some sort of one-on-ones just prior to registration. But there's a lot to kind of work out with that as a result of being in a remote setting. Okay, so this is a quick agenda. We're going to have I'm going to do a quick introduction of what we're doing here, programs, the application process to get into CS, what your fall schedule on a macro sense should look like, and then a little bit about spring registration, and then we'll end with some questions. Okay, so let's get going. That's me. I took that picture recently in my home office. I didn't put a screen thing on the back. Just converted one of my daughter's rooms, who are now all left home. And that's my contact information. I think you guys all know who I am. And I put Ben's name up there and picture up there because he works with the second year exploratory track students. So if you are still an exploratory track next year at this time, then you'll be working with Ben. He also does the IT minor that's housed in our college. Okay, so it is my job to help you navigate this whole system, this whole process, and get to a major. Most folks are very interested in computer science, some are not. But it's extremely important to explore other options. Focus on the major that you're interested in, computer science or something else, but that will always leave you room, 1 or 2 classes each semester, to explore other options. So you're going to get really tired of me talking about major exploration. I think it's important, and we talk about that every semester at registration period. I also feel my job is to help you navigate, to narrow your focus. Some folks have many different interests, but we got to really narrow that focus, develop some kind of a backup plan, and get to a major. UMass has a policy that says all students need to be in a major, a degree producing major, prior to the end of their 3rd semester. That doesn't mean you can't change again after that, but you can't be an explorer. Technically, you're not supposed to be an exploratory track somewhere after the start of your 4th semester. Okay, so it's really important to get somewhere. Obviously, during this, at least for the fall, we're going to do our advisings over Zoom. I tend to not like to do advising over email. However, I do need to be a little bit more flexible this semester. The only reason is one question usually spurs 2 or 3 or 4 other questions, and then most questions have multiple type of answers. So I'm open to doing email advising, but let's keep it to a very small number, a small amount, or very simpler type of questions. If you got anything that you think might be complex, please set up an advising appointment on Zoom. Or if you send me an email, or you send me an advising email with a question or a series of questions, I might ask you to make an appointment because there's multiple type of answers, or it would entail a larger conversation. Online system, so you can make an appointment online. And so for the folks who don't know how to do that, if you go to your Spire, your homepage, the student center page, in the lower right-hand corner, and we'll go over that slide in just a bit, you'll see your advisor box, and inside there, you'll see a little hyperlink that says make an appointment. You click that, it's going to bring you to Navigate, and it's going to, if you just follow the prompts, you can make an appointment with me. Okay, I talked a little bit about this already. I guess I got a little ahead of myself. We're going to meet 3 times each semester is my goal. Today's one of them. We're going to have an info session and another one in October, and then hopefully a one-on-one. And I might change that to as needed, because not all students really think they need one or want one, but more to follow on that. Always consider blah, 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 holds, check Spire. We're going to talk a lot about that in a minute or two. FERPA. FERPA is very similar to HEPA with medical stuff. The bottom line is it's privacy. And essentially, I can only talk to you about your education, even if you have somebody else who is the bill payer. So technically, if somebody on your behalf, an aunt and uncle, mom or dad, or something along those lines, what am I doing? I'm drawing lines. Hold on a second.
Sorry, my apologies. That was me by accident. I didn't know that would show up on your screen. I thought it was only on my screen. Sorry.
No worries. That's good.
I will not do that again.
Glad you said that, because as I kept moving my mouse, I got another line, so it's kind of cool. That's okay. So if somebody calls on your behalf or emails me on your behalf, I cannot talk to them about you except that you're a student. I can't talk to them about classes you're in, grades you've earned, or any of that kind of stuff. However, you are free to waive some or all of that. So the bottom line is, you can rest assured that I'm not talking to anybody about you outside of the university setting. I mean, I could talk to other advisors, but nobody in your family. But I can't do anything about who you let sit in on your Zoom meetings, though, or your phone calls or something like that. So, but just know that there is something out there protecting your information. This is different than anything you might have signed or released for bill paying or anything else. This is just for academic advising in our college. Okay. Oh, you know what I haven't done is I didn't ask for any questions. I've just been doing introductory stuff. So I'll wait till the next slide before we get into, let me get out of, where did my mouse go? I lost my mouse. It's not moving now. All right, Alex, I lost my mouse somehow.
Okay.
Can't go to the next slide.
Hold on.
So, I don't know if
Okay. So I'll stop the screen share. Hold on. Let's see. Stop participant sharing. Okay.
There we go.
All right. So go ahead. Go ahead. Go
Okay,
ahead.
my screen. Okay, I got my cursor back here. So let's
Okay.
try this again. All right, I got my, okay, good. All right. Thanks, Alex. So important dates. These are just a couple of things I want to bring your attention to. You probably know some of them or all of them, maybe not. Add drop ends on September 7th. So essentially what that means is up until that date, you can add or drop classes all day long with no penalty, no record of it on your transcripts or anything. It's really not a penalty, but the only thing you really need to be aware of is that you're accountable for all the information from the very start of class. So if you swapped out of a class today, that's cool, but you're just gonna have to hustle a little bit and get caught up in material that was covered from the start of the semester. The W date, this semester it's a little bit different, but the W date is the withdrawal date. And this semester, it's October 16th. That is the last day that you can withdraw from a class, and you can do that on Spire on your own as well. The catch with that is that you will earn a W. You will not earn a grade. You will not earn any credits. So if you're not doing well in a specific class, or if you need to free up some academic study room or some academic time, you're free to withdraw from a class. You do not need anybody's approval. However, I would encourage you to reach out. We should have at least a short conversation about this, only because I want to make sure that you understand the pros and cons of this so that you're making an informed decision, because there are some things to be thinking about. So just keep that in the back of your mind, October 16th. The reason why I say it's a little bit different, that used to be also the last day that you can change your grading option to a pass-fail. But this semester, they have loosened up the pass-fail policy only for the fall. And I think most of you guys know this, but I'll just reiterate really quick. You can do upwards of 3 classes pass-fail. In the past, it was only 1. And you can count all 3 of those towards any requirement: major requirement, minor requirement, gen ed requirement. And in the past, it would not count towards any requirement. The only thing that we don't know yet is, will this count towards the prerequisite classes by trying to get into the major? Math 132, 131, 132, computer science 121, and computer science 187. That decision has not been made yet. So if you are contemplating doing pass-fail in any of those courses, I would encourage you to wait until we have some more resolution. And there's a number of other things that I would want to talk about if you wanted to go pass-fail. So if you're thinking about it, please let's have a conversation about that. So pass-fail, the last day to make that change is coincidentally the last day of classes for this semester, which is November 20th. Next semester, I would not anticipate that being that late into the semester. But for this semester, it's the 20th of November. Excuse me. Spring registration. It's kind of funny. It's only September 1st, and I'm already going to kind of mention spring a few times. That will start in early November, and there's a whole process for that. It's very similar but different than what we did over the summer and getting you registered for classes for this semester. But there is a plan, and it will be very clear to you how we're going to get there from here. And the other important date is students interested in the computer science major. That's an information session meeting. That is a requirement for students to attend one of those in each semester that they apply to the computer science major. Now, the very ironic thing, and I've already fielded a few questions about this is not posted on the website of the requirements to get into the computer science major. They have taken all that information off of that specific line item on the website. The reason for that, I'm going to guess, because it's only Greg's guess, there's been talk that they might be tweaking the application process. But please, please, please know that they have not officially done that yet. So as of now, there's still this requirement to attend one of these meetings. So it's still going to be very important to watch that website. And I think I reference it here in one of my slides coming up. So that is still an important date until they tell me that has gone away. All right, so I should probably stop sharing my screen really quick. Does anybody have any questions on that? Quick look, I don't see any questions. Good, all right.
Sorry.
And we have does somebody have a question?
Yeah, which site should we be monitoring for that information? Like, where
Okay.
will it show up eventually when it does?
I will show you that. I'll reference that in one of my slides coming up. If for some reason I don't show you, ask that again at the end, but I'm pretty sure it's in one of my slides.
Greg, you have another question, actually.
Oh, okay.
How does pass-fail affect GPA?
Good question. Pass fail. So the professor does not know if you take a class pass fail. Professor will still submit a grade at the end of the semester. And the registrar's office converts an A through a D to a P, and an F stays an F. A P has no bearing or is not factored into your GPA computation. An F is. So it has zero effect on your GPA. Now, a couple of things. If you earn a grade that improves your GPA, the registrar will give you the grade. If for some reason they don't, because last semester we went to all classes could be pass fail, your choice. This semester we got a little bit, we tightened up just a little bit, now you can do 3. The registrar didn't catch all of those. The point is that at any point in the future, you can change a pass fail to a grade, a P. You can change a P to a grade in 2 semesters from now, a year from now, 3 years from now. You can do that. You just got to go to the registrar and say, hey, I want to revoke my pass fail and make it a grade, or revert it back to a grade. And so an example of that might be, let's say you earned a C in a Gen Ed course, but it didn't improve your GPA, and at the time you didn't want it. But if you're fixing to graduate and for whatever reason you didn't get that Gen Ed done again, then you can change that to a grade and take that C if you want it. But I guess
Greg, you have another question as well.
Okay, hold on a second. I guess that analogy probably isn't really good because the P now counts for a Gen Ed requirement. The bottom line, a P can be changed again back in the future. What's the other question?
Yeah, excuse me. So if you want to go into the CICS major, you can have a pass or fail, right?
Well, that's the question that we know. Well, we don't know yet. So if you are in the major, and let's say you are a CS major and you're taking Math 132 and Computer Science 187 now, then yeah, technically you can make those both pass-fail. But because you are not in the major, and there are those courses required for you to show academic proficiency, right now it's still, you have to earn the letter grade. However, that official decision has not been made yet. So we should get some resolution, hopefully in a couple of weeks, about how are they going to look at the contractual courses, the prereqs to get into computer science, Math 131, 132, Computer Science 121 and 187.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Anything else while we're going here? All right, let's keep
actually, I've got one.
Yeah.
How would we set up a meeting with you if we wanted to talk about any of this?
So if you go on to Spire on your computer, on the Student Center on the lower right-hand corner, you will see your advisor block, and inside there you will see a little hyperlink that says make an appointment. Click that and follow the prompts from there, and it will make an appointment with me. Once I see it, I will do a Zoom the meeting, I will make a Zoom meeting and get that sent to you. Sometimes I get a little bit behind and it might be a few minutes beforehand, but usually I try to do it the day that you do it,
Right.
the day you make the appointment. All right, let's keep moving. All right, so the college has a few programs. We have the computer science BS, the Bachelor of Science. We have the BA, the Bachelor of Arts. We have informatics, which is new to us, the BS. We have a minor, and we have the IT minor. So here is a copy of the track and form, or the BS. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this. So the top part, let me just kind of pull my annotation thing. So these courses are usually done in your first year. And then you get down into the 200 series courses. Nobody's there yet. We might have some folks here in 187 in the audience. In that case, next semester you would be free to take 220 or 230. As a reminder, or as a highlight, 220 and 230 are programming intense classes. 240 and 250 are math intense classes. So to get into 230 or 220, you only have to have 187. To get into 240 or 250, you have to have Calc 1, Calc 2, and you have to have Computer Science 187. So the program consists of 14 computer science courses, 4 maths, and 2 lab science type courses. So in the future, you're going to hear me say that I don't usually recommend students taking a lab science class until they're in the major, unless their backup major or backup plan is in one of those areas, chemistry or geology or physics, or if they're strongly considering engineering as a backup. And the reason for that is those courses do not help you get into the major. Those are only requirements once you're in the major. And I look at my advising role with you all very strategically, and that is to advise you in a sense of how can we get you to where you want to go, okay? So, so those are the lab sciences. Let me just clear the questions on that. On the BS? Good. We'll move on to, and Alex, every time I hit, I can't move to the next thing again. So wait a minute, so I'll do it.
You could use your arrow, okay. You could use your arrows as well on your keyboard.
Okay.
To go right and left as well.
There we go. Okay, so they got the BA. The BA was started probably 10 or 15 years ago with the intent of making it logistically easier for students to double major in computer science and something else. You do not have to double major in something else to do the BA. And if it's the same criteria to get into the BA as it is to the BS, once you're in the computer science, you can switch between the BA and the BS. It's not another application process. It's just essentially, it's a form. You tell us you want to do that. So some of the differences are the nuances. It's only 10 computer science courses. There's only 3 maths. You do pick up a foreign language requirement, and there's a 4-course concentration. So with the foreign language, if you got to level 4 in high school, then your foreign language requirement is complete. If English is your second language, there is a proficiency test that you can take as long as you score a certain level, then that's another way that foreign language can be fulfilled. The 4-course concentration, that the intent was that to come out of your second major. So you'd need to take 4 upper level 200 or above sequential type courses in that second major. So if you didn't double in something else, then you would have to work with your advisor and pick 4 courses in one discipline that were sequential in nature. Usually the catch with that, if you're not doubling in that major, it might be a little bit more challenging because a lot of upper level courses have prerequisites. So, but the big thing to know now is that we have a couple different options with computer science, depending on what it is you think you want to do. Questions on that? Good. All right, informatics, new major. It's a data science type degree. It is not a coding, not a programming type of degree. So every semester I get students who their primary interest is computer science and their backup is informatics, thinking that they're going to be doing the same type of work, but it's totally different. You're not programming here. You're digging for, analyzing data to ask questions, answer questions, to find information, to do something with it. And so it's an applied computing type of program where when you go to apply to this, you really need to have an area of interest that you want to apply this to. So did you want to apply this to some kind of a social science, some kind of a hard science? You know, where's your other interest lie where you're going to dig for information, and what are you going to use that for? What is your intent? What do you want to do with it? There is an application process to get into informatics. And you've got to get a C or better in 150, a C or better in 121, have a 2.5 or better. And you've got to submit an application, which you really need to articulate what it is you think you want to apply this to. A student cannot double major in computer science and informatics. And you can only apply to one of them after you have finished applying to the other one. So as an example, if you're very interested in computer science and informatics, you cannot apply to informatics until after you have exhausted all your options for getting into computer science, or if you have just said, I don't want computer science anymore, I want to go after informatics. Bottom line is you can't play both ends against the middle with computer science and informatics. Questions? And then there's that website that you can get more information on informatics. All right. And so the advisors, we have two advisors, Dr. Michelle Trim, who's the associate director of the program, and then Fabian, who is in our office, in the advising office for the college. So you can get some more help figuring some things out with informatics. But again, I would start at their website. All right, we have a minor. Essentially, it's 5 courses. The entry level, 2 entry level ones, 121 and 187, and then 3 upper level courses. Most of you folks are not interested in that now. However, if you move to another major for whatever good or bad reason, you might want to consider a minor. There is a process. It's not an application process, as we call it, an intent form. And the reason for that is we really want to identify you folks who are wanting to get in the minor so that we have enough time to get you into the upper level classes, because you're going to have to submit overrides to get into the upper level classes because they're not going to be open to you as a minor. Bottom line, just remember that there is a minor and it's 5 courses. The IT minor, probably less of you will be interested in this. A lot of folks that are in the social sciences really kind of migrate to this. There's a tremendous amount of flexibility with this. You can get by with doing no programming courses. It's more of a technical, it's an IT type of degree. Lots of flexibility. And Ben in our office advises students on this one. All right, we're going to transition now away from the programs in computer science. You might have seen this. This is kind of random, kind of a transition random slide, but it's really important to talk about. There are basically 3 requirements to graduate from UMass. First of all is you got to do all the university requirements. And essentially that is you have to have at least 120 credits. You have to have at least a cumulative GPA of 2.0. You've got to fulfill all of your gen eds, and you've got to do it within 10 semesters. Then you have your school or college requirements. And for CICS, College of Information and Computer Sciences, essentially that's just a language requirement as far as you're concerned. However, There is no language requirement for the BS. There is a language requirement for the BA. There are some there is a college requirement, but it's very transparent to you because it's built into the actual program that I've already shown you real briefly. And then you have to fulfill all of your major requirements. So those three will get you a degree from UMass. All right, so your fall schedule. We strive to get everybody a balanced schedule, 4 courses plus a CS seminar. The university says everybody's got to have a first year seminar in their first semester. So that's what the first CS seminar is. And we've got a bunch of them. And most of you folks are in the CS, one of the CS seminars, CICS seminars. So you all should be in a computer science course, computer science 121, 186, or 187. You should be in some kind of a math, depending on where you are academically prepared based on your math placement test and or transfer credits, a seminar. And so this is where then it becomes more flexible in your options, if you will. The English writing 112 or an elective, and then a major exploration course or a diversity course. I'm going to pause a little bit because I know I've talked about this to all the students that I've talked to over the summer for NSO, and I apologize I didn't get a chance to meet all of you during the summer. But UMass has a couple of requirements that you've got to do in your first year. First, in the first semester, you got to take a seminar. The next is English writing, 112. Everybody has to take that in their first year. About half the students take it in the fall, and about half the students take it in the spring. So if for some reason you're not in it now, that's okay. You'll take it next semester. I'm sure most of you have taken the writing placement test. You have to take that before you can take 112. It's a way to tell where you are prepared to start your writing adventures, if you will, here at UMass.
Greg, there's a question. When is the due date for declaring minor?
You've got to apply, you've got to submit your intent form with 4 semesters remaining. So when you submit it, you're going to be in 187 or beyond. And the reason for that is there's 3 courses past that. And we want to have enough time so that if you ask for a course in a semester, that we have time to give it to you. So we really don't want you to, we make it so that you can't do it with a couple, 3 semesters left, because we might not be able to offer you the course. So we don't want to take you in as a minor without having enough time to give you the opportunity to take the courses you need.
All right, we got 2 more questions. We have one from the audience, and then there's one I will read for you.
Okay, how about the audience? Audience.
You, Chen, go ahead.
Hello.
Hello.
Just want to ask a question. Just like I have a seminar. It's about like biology, because I don't know. I need to choose the CICS seminar. Should I change that right now, like, or is okay?
It's okay. We offer a bunch of CICS ones because most folks want to take one of those, but you are free to take any first year seminar that's offered through UMass in your first semester. There are some students that opted, like, I don't know if you opted to take the biology one, but some students opted to take something different. Some students, depending on when they did new student orientation and availability of courses, might have had to pick a different one on campus because all the CICS ones were either full or didn't fit their schedule and they weren't able to get rid of a course based on that conflict and the importance of that class.
Got it. Thank you.
The other question is, what is the requirements to enter the major CSBS?
Okay, that's going to be a slide that's still coming up. We're going to talk about the whole application process here in a couple of slides. So hold that thought. If I don't answer that, ask it again at the end, please. Okay, so we got to take English writing and we've got to take a diversity gen ed. So part of the gen eds here at UMass, you've got to take a couple of maths, you got to take a couple of Englishes, you've got to take a couple of sciences, and you got to take 4 humanities type courses. A literature, an arts, social behavioral, a history. And interweaved in there is you've got to take 2 diversity courses, United States diversity and a global diversity. So there might be history, all the HSs have them, ALs have them, arts has them. So sometime before you graduate, you have to fill all your gen eds. But UMass says in your first year, they want every student to take 1 of those diversity courses. So if you took one in the fall, great. You do not have to take one in the spring, you're free to. But if you didn't take it in the fall, we've got to take it in the spring. So when we start talking about the fall in October, I'm going to ask that. If I don't ask that for some reason, I do push-ups, and then you need to ask, you need to remind me, because we got to make sure we work that in. Fall schedule, so computer science, math, exploration, English. And it's extremely important to be thinking about a backup plan. Taking courses, like I've mentioned here, whoops, I don't know what I just did. Right here, major exploration. It's extremely important to be thinking about that. So you can start to see a theme here. This semester and next, you're going to take 1 computer science course and 1 math course. That leaves you with a couple of courses each semester to do major exploration, to take 1, maybe 2 courses in something else. Okay. All right. Let me get rid of my drawings. And somehow I lost the movement here. So of my mouse, I don't know why I have to do this. So here we go. Okay. So CS application. Oh, actually it's the next slide. So let me highlight this, or let me kind of preface this by, there is some talk of tweaking the application process to some degree. I do not know exactly what those tweaks are. So what I am going to talk about here is the way it is now and the way it has been. And we'll just kind of move from there if there are in fact any changes. Okay. So the highlight of this, the kind of the big picture of the application process. There are 2 times a year a student can apply, October 1st and March 1st. And you can, the first time that you can apply is when you're enrolled in. When you're enrolled in Computer Science 187. You can apply upwards of 2 times, and they have to be consecutive. And you are required, the very last bullet, to attend one of those meetings that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation. I have had students in the past miss that meeting and go to apply, and they would not even take the application. So we'll have to see what those dates are when we go to, I'll show you that website. I think it's listed in the next slide. The criteria, so we're looking for academic proficiency, B's or better. We say 131, but it really is important for students to get the B or better in 132. Because we technically can forgive less than a B in 131. And so let's say as an example, you got a C plus in 131, and you were still able to get into the upper level CS courses. You can obviously get into an upper level math. So when you actually apply and you get a B or better, we're going to say, hey, you just had a little blip in the screen. You obviously understand calculus because you demonstrated that. By getting a B or better in 132. So we're looking for a B or better there and a B or better in 187. And I'll just say on the side, 187 is a very challenging course. So just kind of be prepared when you get there. You're gonna work really hard there.
Right, we got 2 questions.
Okay.
Does that mean before October 1st, the exact day of October 1st, or after October 1st?
That means the deadline is October 1st at midnight. So when at midnight at 12 p.m. on the 1st, that's the very last, then that's the last second you can apply. So the clock strikes 12:01 on the 2nd, then that's the 2nd. And so why I say that is I've had a student also really literally submitted 12:02 and they didn't take it then. So usually that window will open after ad drop ends, and that's all online. So that hyperlink will go live sometime after ad drop, and then it will obviously close after the first.
Okay, we have three more questions actually.
Okay.
What if we're in CS 187 but haven't taken Math 132 yet?
So you can still apply because you're in Math and Computer Science 187. Under that scenario in the past, students would receive what we call a 2-semester contract. So we're getting into contractual stuff here that we haven't really talked about yet on the slide. So hold that thought for another minute and I might be answering that naturally here.
And
what's the next question?
Do we need to attend the students interested in CS major if we aren't enrolled in CS 187 this semester?
You do not have to, but you are free to. The only time you have to attend that meeting under the present rules is if you want to apply that semester and you're in 187 or above, okay? So if, for example, you apply and you didn't get in, but you still had a good GPA and next semester you're in 200 series courses and you want to apply again, you will have to attend another one of those meetings.
Next question, what if we do directly Math 223 and 187, then we need to get the contracts?
Okay, so now we're getting into very specific eaches, specific nuances that tend to get very tailored to an individual scenario. And with that, I'd be happy to kind of talk about all those eaches, but keep in mind that the deadline is the 1st of October, and you will receive notification within a couple, 3 weeks of what that contract is going to be. So as an example, you're going to you submit your application by October 1st. 2 weeks later, you're going to get an email back, which is essentially it's a contract. And that contract is going to say something similar to this. So we're going to use a generic example of this student is in Calc 2 and 187. So the contract is going to read in this student's case, student needs to earn a C or better in Computer Science 187. A B or better in 187, a B or better in Math 132. Student needs to be a full-time student enrolled in at least 12 or more credits, all of which for a grade, no pass-fail in there. However, we still owe a question on that. We still owe an answer on that. All for grade and nothing less than a C in those other courses. And student has to have a cumulative GPA of 3.0 or better. There'll be a couple of there's a little other verbiage in there, but those are the main points of the contract. So it's on or about the 15th of October. You still have another month or so of the semester. So you understand your contract. You understand what you have to specifically do. You finish as strong as you can. Once grades are posted or finalized to Spire, then if you've met all of those conditions in that contract, then you're in the major. If you miss one or more of those, that contract is void, and then you will have to reapply again the next semester. So to kind of get back to that person that's in 233 and 187, you've got to apply. Some of those questions will get answered in that information session meeting if they still have those about that. If for some reason they don't and you still apply, which you should apply, then it's going to be very specifically spelled out in your contract. Okay. So it's very important we could talk about eaches and nuances in this scenario and that scenario, and I'm happy to do that. But at some point in time, we're probably going to have to go offline on that because it probably isn't of interest of most folks on here. So 2 weeks, fulfill the contract or not based on your grades. So you'll unofficially know if you're in. A couple weeks after grades are finalized, you're going to get an official email saying congratulations or we're sorry you missed it.
One more, Greg.
Yeah.
When we graduate from the exploratory track, will you still be our advisor?
Well, unfortunately, you don't ever graduate in the exploratory track. But even more so, no. Once you leave this after this year, you will get a new advisor, even if you're in a different major or even if you get into CS, because my job is working with first year exploratory track students. However, in the future, I make myself available to students, either former students or students who want to learn a little bit more about the major. As long as I have time, I'll make time for you. So you can always, you can always find me. Okay, and the very last thing on this application process. So the reason why it's extremely important to have a backup plan, or reason why I think it's important to do major exploration, is because of this application process. I have students who self-realize that computer science isn't for them for whatever good or bad reason. I have students who don't get in because they missed something, but it's very, very important to have a backup plan. And this is a kind of a life lesson. Every good plan has a backup plan. It's kind of like taking a road trip. You map out your road, you map out your route. If you rely on a GPS and there's a roadblock, well, the GPS sends you on an alternate route. The point is you have to have some kind of a backup plan. Okay. All right. Let me see, are there any?
No more questions I could see.
Okay, that arrow thing doesn't work and I just got to keep stopped and starting to share.
Actually, there is one more. Okay.
Yep, go ahead.
No, it's a comment. I think you lose your mouse cursor every time you annotate. There might be an option to cancel annotation mode.
Okay.
We'll just continue.
Yeah. Okay, so let's kind of transition a little bit to some administrative things on Spire. So my circles here, I did this before I knew I could annotate and draw all over stuff. But so when you first log on to Spire, right there in the center is your schedule. You need to check Spire 3 to 4 times a week. You do finance, housing, and obviously academics. So when you first log on to Spire, make sure that none of your classes got changed. Unbeknownst to you making a change. Every once in a while, I run into a student that said, hey, my class went away. So if that's the case, or a class gets added. So you're accountable for those classes, so make sure that they're always right. And then if you move over here to the right, the holds box, that is extremely important to micromanage and to stay very vigilant on. Most things in that box will stop you from registering for classes. There will always be a little hyperlink right here. If you have something in there, I think it's called details, click that and that'll give you a clue or very specifically what you have to do to lift that. Most holds will only take, a few minutes of your time. Some holds will take upwards of a couple of weeks to get lifted for whatever reason. So that's the reason why you do not want to procrastinate, because a hold will stop you from making any changes. The to-do list, that usually has to do with money. So that all by itself makes it important, at least in my book. And so this box, the enrollment dates, this is what I was talking about. This will get updated in October. This is important 2 times a year. This lets you know when you can first start registering for classes for the next semester. And it's going to be a lot different of a process, but it'll be very much the same when you go to register for the spring. They'll give you a very specific date and time that you can start registering for classes. So the enrollment appointment is not an appointment you have with any person. It's an appointment you have with Spire. And so we're going to do a lot of prep work before that of all the courses that you need to be considering to register for, with backup plans inside of that, so that when you're first allowed to register for courses, you're more apt to get what you want, because it's a very timed process. You can register after that, but then you lose seniority. And why would you want to give away some seniority that you've worked hard to get? And then the very last box is the advisor. So when you change your major, this will get updated. You'll get a new person there, and they'll probably be much better than me. And that was funny. So if I could see all you guys, you'd be laughing right now, and I'd be able to hear it. So, and then at the very bottom, I alluded to this. Somebody asked the question, how can I make an appointment with me? right there at the very bottom, that's the hyperlink that you click on to make an appointment with me.
Greg,
Okay.
couple
Yes.
questions.
Yeah.
Does the application have some type of competition? And
Great
somebody answered, the application is competitive, yes.
Well, it's strictly based on academics. The application is a one-page document that says what classes have you taken and what classes are you enrolled in. So we've chose to look at you academically, and as long as you perform academically, then we will find room for you. We don't have a minimum number of slots, and we take the top 10 of all the applicants, and then everybody else doesn't get. It's very straightforward. It's very transparent in the sense that this is the grades. You earn those grades, you apply, and you're in. You meet that contract, and you're in. We'll upfront very specifically what courses you need to do, what grades, boom, you're in. So is it competitive? Yes, it's competitive in the sense that you have to earn the grade. It's not competitive. You're not competing against your buddies. There's nobody you're competing against.
Okay.
Next one.
Let's see. Can CS major applicants be admitted directly without contract?
No.
Does the application depend on how early we apply?
No.
Will we be having any advising session to help us decide the classes for spring semester?
Yes.
That is all.
Good. All right. Good. Let's move on to the next one. I'm trying to, all right, I got to stop I've not been able to find that one button that somebody was talking about when I annotate. Okay. So real briefly for the spring, I know it's very early, but just to kind of throw it out there, it'll be here before we know it. We're going to be doing this in early November. Will be the very specific date that you'll be registering for. So sometime in mid-October, that enrollment appointment box that I just showed you will get updated with a very specific date and time. And then that will be when you can first start registering. So before that, we're going to go through this whole drill of what it is you think you want, what majors are you interested, what courses you're taking, and then very specifically lay out a plan for what I would recommend that you get for the spring based on your needs, your interests, your desires. For the spring, it's also very important to stay on top of holds. Don't let them linger. See something there, get it fixed. Late October, we're going to have another group type of a session. I actually call it now a small group of session. Usually have 10 to 50 people in the smaller groups, but there's a whole process, and I'll lay this all out for you. Spring, you need to register for at least 12 credits. And by the way, to be a full-time student, you have to be enrolled in 12 credits. 19 is the most that you can register for on your own. If you're less than 12, then you're a part-time student. So 12 to 19 credits. The fourth bullet there, or the fifth bullet, submit overrides. For anything 187 or above, presently students have to submit an override. And that's essentially a request to get into a class. And so once you read the restrictions of a class, especially for 187 or any of the 200s, it very specifically says you have to be in the major, you have to have certain courses that you earn certain grades in, and if you don't meet those, then you need to ask for help to get in. And so everybody's next semester is going to be submitting overrides because most of you guys will be going into at least 187, and some of you folks will be going into some 200 series courses. And we'll talk about that strategy as well in the late October timeframe. For the spring, I also need you to continue to be thinking about major exploration. What happens if? And so the upside to major exploration is, let's say you do well, and let's say you get into computer science, and let's say you took my advice and explored other things. You might find that there's a really cool subject out there that you stumble into that might be worth your minor, or might be worth you double majoring in computer science and this other thing. Or you might find that you're more fascinated with something else than you are with computer science. Because let's face it, you've never been to college before. And there's so much opportunity out there. There's so much research going on. There's so many subject areas that you've never been exposed to. So when you start registering for the spring, really kind of open up your eyes and kind of take off the blinders and kind of say, wow, I'd like to take a course in, wow, I never really thought of archaeology or whatever, you know, let's take a chance. Okay, and you're going to take a diversity class. So next semester, you're going to be in a math, a computer science, one of those requirements, either the writing or the diversity, and a major exploration type of course. Questions on that?
So if I'm in Math 131, do I have to take Math 132 before I take Comp Sci 187?
There is not a requirement for a student to take 132 before they take 187, nor is there a requirement, a minimum requirement student has to be in 131 while they're in 187. Does that answer that question?
I think so. There are no more questions at this point.
Perfect. All right. So we're going to transition a little bit more. So resources. These are some resources that I feel are really important. The Learning Resource Center, they provide free tutoring for most courses. So if you just Googled UMass LRC, that will pop up. They've got an online appointment system, and they are doing remote tutoring. And so you can set up an appointment where it's just you and another student who's taken that course before and gotten an A, and they're answering your questions. Every once in a while, there might be two of you with the tutor in there. That's tutoring. They also have this thing called supplemental instruction. Supplemental instruction is a much smaller number of classes in which that they offer support for, but that's essentially where they're reteaching the last class. The LRC also has some research office, but I would strongly encourage you to check the Learning Resource Center out now, long before you need that help. You don't want to start struggling and realize that, you know, it takes another week or so or something, or you want to know the rules now before you actually need it. The Calc Tutoring Center is a tutoring center offered by the math department. And this is professor-based, where the LRC is peer-based. Professor-based tutoring, where they're available usually from 10 o'clock till 3 o'clock. So you can Google UMass Calc Tutoring Center, and it'll bring you to that page that gives you more information about that. Also some free tutoring. The writing centers in the basement of the library, that really doesn't mean anything to you right now, but again, on their website, they've got a system where they will proofread any paper in any subject up to 3 times. So if you are a writing wizard like I am not, being facetious there, if you're a writer like me that always needs a little bit of help, research what the protocol is for that, so you know when you can turn something in and when you're going to get some feedback back. So, you know, if you have 3 papers in an econ class, you know, then they could help you upwards of 9 times, 3 per paper. So every professor has office hours. Know those. They'll all be remote this semester, but know when they are. If you have any struggles, if you have any questions about how that class is being graded or questions about the class, make sure you've read the syllabus, done some homework, but don't be afraid to ask. Go to those office hours. Excuse me a minute.
Greg, you mind pausing for a couple of questions?
Sure.
So if I do good in 131, do I need to take 132?
Yes.
What if I skip Math 132? Will I be eligible for contract before 187 or after 187?
Do not skip 132. You cannot skip 132. Math 233 is the next course you have to take, and you can't take that course unless you have Math 132 credit for it. And the other thing is Math 132 is a prerequisite for many upper level CS classes. And so if you haven't taken it and you went past it for whatever reason, then you still will face the problem of not being able to get into upper level courses that's a prerequisite for.
Second part of the question, or do I need to take any higher CS course for contract?
Maybe. So if the easy example is if you're in Math 132 and Computer Science 187, and you get into you apply and you fulfill your contract, you get in, boom, there's no more contract stuff. There's no more pressure of performing, showing academic proficiency, except passing everything with, with the requirements of the major. However, if you miss the contract, let's say the easy example, you get a B in your math and you get a B minus in 187, then next semester when you apply, you will have to get a B or better in computer science 220 or 230. So if you take 187 and get in, there's no more contractual requirements. If you take 187 and you don't get in, then yes, there will be contractual requirements as long as you apply the next semester.
Okay, he asks, by AP credits I skipped at the end of that last point.
He probably skipped 132. He'd probably get credit for Math 131 and 132 by taking the AP Calc BC exam. And in that case, you are still getting credit when you check your transcripts. Once those AP results are posted to Spire, then it's on your permanent record. You have got credit for Math 131 and 132. And we will not hold the AP credit against you in the sense that we're not looking for you to repeat 132 and get a B or better. We're going to set up a contract where you've got to get a B or better at next higher level courses. And those would be very specifically laid out for you in the contract. Any other questions out there?
We have one more. If I opt to Gen Ed pass fail, can I still apply into the major?
Yes, because the only thing right now that's in question with the pass fail is the math and CS courses, the prerequisites, the courses that are needed for the contract that we had talked about, Math 131, 132, Computer Science 121, and 187. So if you took a pass fail in English writing, if you took a pass fail in elective, if you took a pass fail in a Gen Ed, then that will not be held against you in the contractual process. Okay, let's keep moving here. So office hours, CMAS stands for Center for Multicultural Advancement and Student Success. If that applies to you, I would strongly encourage you to check that office out. They have got a great website. They've got a lot of different cultural organizations. They've got a lot of support opportunities there. I would strongly encourage you to check out their website and get involved in them. International Programs Office, they offer, they cater to two groups of people, students who are coming to UMass and students who are going away from UMass and studying somewhere. So if you have an interest in study abroad for a semester or a year, I would strongly encourage you to check them out. And if you are here, if you're an international student, then I'm sure that you're already involved in somebody in this office, in that office on your way into UMass. Campus Pulse. Campus Pulse is a great resource. I should have probably put that in parentheses. That is where all the student organizations are, for lack of better words, housed. At any point in time, we could have upwards of 500 different student organizations. And so I would encourage you to check that out, even in our remote environment that we're in, and get involved in one or two things outside of your academic pursuits here. Don't get overextended, but this really helps shape and refine your college experience and really enhance that. So if you get involved in something and it proves to be cool, then great. If you get involved in something and it ain't for you, then go find something else. You don't have to stick with it. So those are only a few resources. I think I hit talk about a couple more in a little bit, but I would strongly encourage you to check those out. All right. A couple other things. The mentor, CICS Student Mentor Program. It's a great way for you to sign up for a mentor. So I think you've all gotten literature on this. So if you haven't done it, there again, I'd encourage it. It's not a requirement. Check out UMass, 40 days at UMass. That's a kind of a cool thing. And then the Fresh CICS, that's another great way to connect with students, fellow students that are either in the major or trying to get into the major. It's rather new. I think we're in our 3rd year in this, and it's proved to be very valuable. So those are a couple other resources that I would encourage you to at least check out. If you don't want to get involved in it, that's your choice. All right, CICS careers. The bottom line, you're in college to better yourself and to get somewhere after this. And so we've got our own office that caters to that, that helps you get to where it is you want to go. It does not tell you anything. It doesn't make anything mandatory. They're not going to reach out and say, hey, you need to go do this or you need to go do that. But once you make that first effort, then they're going to give you all kinds of help. And it starts with a platform that they've used now called Handshake. So I would just go Google UMass CS Careers, CICS Careers. It'll bring you to their website and you can sign up for Handshake. And that's a platform that will put you in connection with other companies and corporations. They also have access to that. It's a way that you can get help with resumes, interview tactics, set things up, sign up for job fairs, that kind of stuff. And we'll talk about job fairs. The first one is coming up on the 22nd and 23rd of September. And quite frankly, it's never too early to start asking questions and getting involved in these things. So if you don't have a resume, that's fine. Go to their website and you can start then. There are people there to help you start that process. If you've got one and you want somebody to take a look at it, they're there for that. They're there for everything from soup to nuts to get you to where it is you want to go. Internships, and then your first gig when you get out of here. So check them out. Whew, okay. Some random advice. We're getting close to the end here. Join some kind of an online community. I would push the Fresh CICS. Watch email. Watch email daily. I would even say multiple times each day. That is how we officially correspond with you. And if we send it, then you're accountable for it. And every year this happens, and it's already happened this semester. I didn't get that email. I didn't read an email. I didn't get that. Well, that means that you've lost. You've missed out. Now, I'll be the first to tell you that any email system, you're going to get a bunch of stuff that's really what you don't think is important at all. Somebody else might think it is. So it's really important to read it and weed through it and get those nuggets, because, you know, you guys know that you're not in high school anymore. There's not going to be somebody that tells you have to be somewhere at some specific time. You might get a lot of reminders, but nobody's going to make you do anything. So you have to be able to take the initiative. You've got to be in charge of you. And that starts with checking your email. Spire, you need to watch that 2 or 3 times a week. We talked about that. Connections. It's extremely important to make connections. And unfortunately, it makes it a little bit harder in this remote environment. The good news is we're not going to be in this environment forever. But connections with contemporaries, connections with professors. I cannot emphasize the importance of making connections with your professors. Even in this environment, you can still make a connection by office hours, asking questions. You need to establish some sort of a relationship with your professor. And the reason for that, the very, very specific reason is every one of you guys are going to need a letter of recommendation. Every one of you. And a professor's letter of recommendation carries triple the amount of weight of anything else. I will offer you I'll write a letter of recommendation for you, but if I don't know you, then it's not going to be that in depth, and it's definitely not going to hold as much clout as a professor's. And if you haven't taken the time to establish a relationship with your professor, when you need a letter of recommendation, and if he or she agrees to it, they're probably going to say, yeah, he or she took my class and they earned an A-, because they don't know anything else about you. So make an effort to make a connection with every one of your professors. And when we're in an in-person environment, the easiest way to do that is after the first week of classes, after one class, go up and just shake their hand, introduce yourself to them. You've now stood out a little bit to them. You've now made that connection. It's going to make it much easier for you to go to their office hours and ask a question or engage, or potentially engage in some kind of a relationship. The other reason connections are really important with professors is you just don't know where your next mentor is coming from. And every one of us needs mentors. Mentors aren't just assigned, they just don't pop up. We have to take the initiative to establish those. So if you make an attempt to establish a relationship with a professor and something percolates, great. If nothing percolates, that's great too. You've given it a try. Even if it's a gen ed professor, man, you just don't know where that next one is going to come from. And they're so valuable in life. Another piece of random advice is here's our advising website. You learn a little bit more about what we do and how to get in touch with us. Know your syllabus. Oh my gosh, I can talk forever about this. All of you guys have gotten a syllabus for your classes. In there, that's your contract with that professor and what he or she's going to teach you, the learning outcomes. But here and now, very specifically, it will tell you how your grade is determined. And if it's not crystal clear to you after you've read your syllabus how your grade is going to be determined, you need to read it again, then ask a question. Because your grades obviously are very important, but that is also the start of your time management system. You know, if you know you have 2 tests and a quiz and you haven't bothered to see how much they are weighted or how much they mean in your overall grade, then you might assume that each of those tests are worth 30 or 40% of your grade, and then you're going to start preparing it a certain way. But you might find that the first one is worth 20% and the second one is worth 60%, or something along those lines. You might find that attendance is worth 10%. Wow, that's 10% of free time, free part of your grade, a free A piece of your grade. Know how your grade is determined. It's extremely important for you to make decisions and for you to make time management decisions. Which leads right into the next one. I can go on and on about time management, but what I always like to talk about is if you don't manage your time will manage you. And it's even more important in this remote environment that we're in now, that you really carve out some very specific times to study, some very specific times to go to class. And the very last one is it kind of goes right into it. Develop some kind of a rhythm in your life. You know, you get up at a certain time, you go to that place to study at a certain time, you go to this class at a certain time, have that place that you can go to. Your places are a lot more limited now in this environment, but establish some rhythm that you don't have to think about what time you're going to get up. You don't have to think about what you're going to do when you first get up. You don't think about, you know, what you have to do, because it's kind of a rhythm. And when you get out of rhythm, then things seem a little bit peculiar. So the quicker you can get on a rhythm that's yours, because the rhythm you had in high school, somebody else set that one, you're now in charge of your rhythm. So set that thing and manage your time. Couple of things to remember. Focus on CS or whatever major that you're very interested in, but explore other opportunities. Develop a backup plan. Take your time with gen eds. Do not be in a hurry to complete all your gen eds. You have plenty of time. Every year, I get students who finish their gen eds for some reason very early, and they don't have a backup plan, and they don't get in. Then they say, what do I do? Well, you didn't take advantage of the major exploration concept because you have plenty of time to knock out your gen eds. So your priority of selecting classes should be CS or whatever your major ones, major exploration, and then everything else. Declare major by the end of your 3rd semester. That's what we talked about. And then this is kind of a random thought that I think is extremely important. Your major does not always equal your career. You don't have to go be a computer scientist when you graduate. And not all computer scientists were computer science undergraduates. Okay. So your major will shape your career, but it will not dictate your career. You can get to almost anything with almost any degree. Okay. I think the biggest question that I haven't answered, somebody asked me early on, what was that website to find more out about the process. So let me go over, start a new thing here. So I'll go to our new friend. The reason why this is a little off kilter, I don't know if you see on your screen, on the left, on the right hand side, I see a bunch of faces. But so Google UMass CS application. Becoming a CS major. So here's the three ways you are going to be focused on. The first one, current UMass students, apply to the major. And here it is. Okay. It's a very long, lengthy document with a whole bunch of information. Hopefully, when you read through this, after this meeting, some of this will make a little bit more sense to you. You'll probably have more questions, but we're going to continue to talk about these things as we go through this semester. I guess the next biggest time, if you've got some questions about things, is when you have gotten your contract back. You're free to ask me before that, but it's extremely important for you to understand your contract. So when you get that thing, and if you have some questions about that, make sure you come ask me. You can obviously ask the person that sent it to you, but you're free to come see me and I'll be able to explain it also. Now, if you page down through here, so orientation to the major change to CS, if you come to this hyperlink, undergraduate orientation, this is where you will find those dates. So incoming CS majors, that's not you. Incoming CICS exploratory track. I was very negligent. I did not put my date up on the website. I reached out to all of you guys. AOC means applicant on contract. So this meeting that they didn't schedule is for all folks who came off contract that made it. But this is you. Okay. So what leads me to believe that they're going to tweak the system a little bit is there's nothing here. Usually there's a TBA, to be determined or to be announced. But I can't say that it's changed because I don't know for sure. So please, please, please keep watching this website. If something shows up here, please adhere to it. When I learn something, if I learn something, I'll pass it on. But please don't let that be your only way of learning about any changes to the major. I will do my darndest to keep you abreast, but you've got to take a lot of initiative and do some research on your own also. Okay, those were my slides. We got any questions? Wow, that's a first. Anybody got a joke?
Sorry, Greg. Does the 45 credits mean that if I have an AP credits, I might have to decide a major sooner?
There's a 45 credits. So it's not based on credits. It's based on your semesters here on campus. You might have seen something in your readings about a student has to do 45 credits in residence. And what that essentially means is it really applies to transfer students. You got to do at least 45 UMass Amherst credits when you transfer here. Now, the other thing that goes with that, might kind of bleed off of that, if you will, is if you have more than 27 transfer or AP credits, then you are no longer a first-year student. You're now a sophomore. So if that is you, you might have experienced trouble getting into a first-year class that had a restriction of only offered to first-year students. But the bottom line is the 45 your credits have nothing to do with when you have to declare a major. It's all by semesters on campus for that rule.
How would you recommend making connections in these times?
That's a really good question. Number one, I'm a little bit older than you, so I'm not as savvy on this, on all the platforms and all the social medias things. But I would take advantage of anything that has been presented to you. And as far as connections, Well, I've talked about a couple of making connections with peers with that CICS mentors and the CICS Fresh or Fresh CICS. But as far as making connections with your professors, if there's no other obvious platform, then I would use the office hours. I would figure out that process and log into that site. And I would just, at a minimum, if you had no questions, I would just introduce myself and express this, that, hey, I'm looking to make a connection. This is all new to me. We're in a remote status. So I just wanted to introduce myself.
If I'm taking CS 187 this semester and I have credit for Math 132, will I be able to apply for a CS major this October?
Yes. Yes, you will. As long as you're in 187, you will be able to apply to the major. When you apply, you're going to get your contract back, which will very specifically say what classes you have to take and what grades you have to earn.
In what scenario would a student be given a 2-semester contract?
The easy example would be, let's say you are in Math 131 and Computer Science 187, because you have to show academic proficiency in Math 132. In that case, this semester you're enrolled in 187 and 132. So they'll say all the courses that you have to take and the grades you have to get for the fall. And in that same contract, that same email, it's going to say, okay, if you do all of those things, then this is what you have to do for the spring. CS 220 or whatever, Math 132, 12 credits and whatever. So in that case, you have to fill both of those semesters' contract obligations. So when you go through the fall semester, if you miss something, let's say you get a B- in something you have to get a B in, then that whole contract, the whole 2-semester contract is void, and you'll have to reapply again next semester.
Okay, we have a question that talks about meetings you talked about. It says, what were the meetings you talked about? The ones that are mandatory if you're applying? When are they? How to attend, etc.
So the meetings for the application have not been set yet, and I showed you that link and what you need to keep watching for. When they have those are mandatory in the sense that they take attendance, and when part of the application is what meeting did you go to, and they have a record of that, and if you didn't attend it, then they won't take your application. So those are important from that sense. As far as how are you going to learn about the meetings that I have, just like you learned about this meeting, I'm going to send you an email, and I'm going to send you the information that you need to do to either attend one of these meetings, or is it going to be a smaller setting and you can pick which meetings you want to go to. It might even be a scenario that I send you an email with a specific link that you can establish a one-on-one appointment. The bottom line is all the mandatory meetings that are for me you will hear from me with the very specific instructions of what you have to do. But those are only the mandatory ones in the sense that, I hate to use the word mandatory, but the ones that you need to go to so that I can help you prepare for the next semester. Having said all that, you can make an appointment at any time. You can meet with me on a weekly basis if you wanted to. I've never had anybody do that, but I've had them meet with me quite frequently during the semester. But don't wait for the next mandatory meeting to meet with me. You're free to make an appointment with me at any point in time.
Okay. There's a request to the link that would concern info about the meetings. If you could show that link again is the request.
Oh.
Or just put it in chat.
Oh yeah, well, I have to go, I don't have it, I'd have to go cut and paste it. So let me see if I kept it. Hold on a second. Oh good, I did keep it. So I'm going to drop in the website. website to how to apply to the major, or all the requirements. And inside of that is going to have the orientation. There'll be a link to the orientation meetings from there. Did everybody get that? Did I put it in the right place?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. All right. What else?
That's all the questions I see.
Good. Well, 50 of you guys hung around till the very end. I appreciate it. I hope you learned something. I hope I didn't waste your time. And for all you folks in a time zone that's other than ours, thank you for staying up and coming. So please, if there's anything I can do for you, you let me know. Good to see you guys.